Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Adam Makes Beer. My name is Adam, and today we are brewing one of the original beers that we brewed here at Cartridge when we first opened. We are brewing Leaded, which is our coffee amber. It's a little bit of an homage to some people that I have brewed with in the past. Our friends at Gray Lime Brewing do an amazing coffee brown. I'm kind of riffing off of that a little bit. I always like the big coffee aromatics that they got out of that beer. It has this real kind of walk into the coffee house kind of aromatic, kind of fresh open the bag aromatic. I'm making an amber beer with this, and I'm using a couple of malts that are maybe a little atypical. And so we'll be diving into this. Right now we are mashing in Josh, Big Josh Halpert is around here somewhere. We're doing some stuff. He's gonna be sanding up the tank. We're gonna be doing some brewery things. So come along with us. Okay, so we are fully mashed in on Leaded, and we are now recirculating that beer. You can see that through this sight glass and then through this larger sight glass that we have on the Grant. We're moving wort off the bottom of the mash tun because there's a false bottom there, which helps to separate the grain that is inside the mash tun and then the wort that is now being pumped off the bottom of it and recirculated back up to the top. We run that recirculation in order to get that wort, what is now wort, grain-free. We're going to recirculate. It'll take all those small bits of grain and redeposit them back up to the top of the mash. This will help this wort run clear, and it'll help us send clear wort to the kettle, which is what we want. Let me see if I can give you a quick look at what this recirc looks like. Just kind of a nice, gentle, steamy, just a nice, gentle little parabola, Josh? Parabola that runs down the side. We're gonna run that for 25 minutes. That's how long it takes for our system to clear up the wort, which is essentially just malt sugar water. That's what's really going on in the mash tun. All that starch from all the malted barley that we're using is being converted to sugar. So we're gonna run that recirc, and then we'll get ready to start moving some wort over to the kettle. Okay, so we have our wort nice, clear, and grain-free. You can kind of see that right here and in that sight glass behind me here. Now that we have that grain-free, we've already checked pH on that. We're where we want to be. We have the gravity that we want to see, so we know we had starch conversion to sugar. That recirculation process is known as the Vorlauf, German word. That's my German impression. It's the Vorlauf, which is the recirculation. Now we are moving into the lauter, where we are moving this clear wort over to the kettle. And you can kind of see steamy, dreamy, but you can see that beautiful amber wort flowing in there. If you see it, there are bubbles floating on top. If you're wondering if that's like particulate or something, it's not. This process of running the lauter, so running wort from the mash tun to the kettle, is going to take 90 minutes roughly. All right, we will be starting up the sparge soon, and I'll show you all about that. All right, now one of the key factors that we track in the mash is both mash temperature, and for Leaded, we are going in the mid to upper range, and so we hit about 155, 156 degrees in the mash tun, and that should give us more non-fermentable sugars, which should help boost the body of the beer and may also give a little bit more impression of residual sweetness. I just heard that thing start. But we also track pH, and here is our pH meter for our first runnings, and we hit 5.3. So that's right where we want to be for this beer. We're about to start sparging. I will show you that, and we're gonna do the thing. Do the thing, do the thing. Big Josh Halpert. All right, We are now sparging the grain. We're about to go up and look at that, but you can see right over here in this sight glass, we have about 7 barrels loudered over to the kettle. And then now, in order to get the rest of the liquid volume that we need for this beer, the rest of the work, we have to sparge this grain bed. And so what we'll do is, we will take water from the hot liquor tank, pump it up and in, and you can see that it is spraying all over the surface of that grain bed and continuing to rinse wort or malt sugar water out of this ton and run it into the kettle. Like that. The key here is, if you want to think of the wort that comes out of the mash tun like this, the first wort that we put in here, it's the most sugar dense, it's the sweetest, it's the richest, it has the most color. And then this sparged wort that's going to be coming through is going to be a little bit more dilute. It's going to have a little less sugar, a little less color, but together it's going to form the wort that we need for this beer. Think about the same way if you only ran half of your water for coffee through the grounds, separated that, you'd have something really dark, rich, kind of espresso-like. Separated that and then ran the second half of the water through the grounds, and you kind of get like this weak, strong tea looking stuff. It's a similar concept here. We're running 2 separate portions of water through this mash bed, and we're going to use both of those volumes to make one big cup of coffee, or starting wort that we want for leaded. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? All right, hey everybody, we had some unexpected stuff go on. We had our temp controller for the kettle completely die on us, so that meant we couldn't feed steam to the kettle. We were very fortunate and had a backup controller though, and we're lucky enough to have somebody be able to come in and swap that in for us. So our boil is now a couple hours later than usual, but we are up to full volume. All of our numbers look great, and we're about to do our 60-minute boil edition on this. We're really looking in the low 20s for IBU on this, probably about 22, 23 IBU. So we're using 2 pounds of Warrior, just a clean bittering hop, in order to get that done. All the IBUs are coming from that edition at 60 minutes. So let me reset my timer, because it's a 90-minute boil. We're 30 minutes into the boil right now. And I'm going to go up and I'm going to add our hops. I do like to add hops slowly to the boil. This is one point in the process where you can walk by, it's no problem. I do like to I do like to add hops slowly to the boil. This is one time where you can kind of get a boil over happening. You just have to keep an eye on it. So I baby these hops in here a little bit, making sure that the kettle doesn't want to go anywhere. Trip and fall, because of all the hoses on the floor. Wet floor is one of the major areas that you can have injuries in a brewery. But one of the ways you can be most severely injured is by getting burned by a significant amount of hot wort. So I'm just going to keep an eye on this for a second. One of the reasons that wort tends to burn you worse than water is it is viscous, it is dense, and so it doesn't dump its heat as quickly when it makes contact with you. So it kind of burns you and keeps burning you. So you try to take every precaution that you can. We do use a food grade anti-foam agent in the kettle every time, and it just helps prevent boilovers and helps to keep us safer. Anyhow, I'm going to babysit this for a minute. Next thing you know, we're going to be adding yeast nutrient for yeast health and some Whirlfloc into the kettle in order to get a good break so we can get some nice clear wort running off to the fermenter. All right, so we are 5 minutes left in the boil, and this is when I will add my whirl flock to the boil. When I was brewing at home, I would use 1 tab for 5 gallons. On this scale, they're recommending for me, I'm using about 30 tabs in a beer this size. It does help facilitate the proteins that are swirling around in this wort. It does help them to stick together, get a little bit larger and drop out, get a little stickier together. So when I whirlpool this, after I turn the steam off, I'm like a few minutes away from that. After I turn the steam off, I'm gonna whirlpool this kettle using a pump, and it's not gonna be like some huge vortex or anything like that, but I'm gonna get all of the wort spinning. All those proteins are gonna stick together, and then they're gonna settle in the middle of the bottom of the kettle. And they kind of form like a little dome. And what it'll do is it'll leave me about, I don't know, maybe a foot ring all the way around the outer edge of the kettle that'll just be clean metal, right? Not a whole bunch of protein laying right there. So then my side port on the bottom of the kettle, I can draw off clear wort to send through the heat exchanger and then on over to a fermenter. Okay, now we have leaded running off, meaning that the whirlpool is settled and we're starting to pump it through the heat exchanger here. In the heat exchanger, we have cold city water going in, and it comes out hot because we're sending hot wort through and the wort's coming out cold, all right? We have our sight glass right here where you can see this amber colored beer blowing through there. We are taking some oxygen in there right now. We do about 2 liters per minute of oxygen. And this tube, this hose, runs all the way over here to this connection point on the tank. You can see I have this blow-off thing built in so I can push out all of my no-rinse sanitizer that we use when we sanitize the heat exchanger. And then finally, you can see the headspace in the fermenter getting smaller because that tank is all sealed up with the exception of that one point, which is connected to the CIP valve, the clean in-place spray ball up top of the tank. So this beer is going to ferment at 68 degrees. When it is at terminal, past VDK or diacetyl and nice and clean, we'll crash it down, harvest the yeast, and then we're gonna move this beer onto coffee on the cold side. That's what's next. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.